Take your seats and silence your cell phones. Welcome to the first meeting of the House Judiciary Committee. We do have a quorum. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Banta,
Present.
Representative Baumann,
Present.
Representative Blanton, Representative Burke,
Here.
Representative Dietz, Representative Flannery,
Here.
Representative Griffey,
Here.
Representative Kulkarni, Representative Lewis,
Here.
Representative Maddox, Representative Mosier,
Here.
Okay.
Representative Nemus,
Here.
Representative Petrie,
Here.
Representative Roberts,
Here.
Representative Stevenson, Representative Whitaker,
Here.
Representative Williams, Representative Wilson, Vice Chair Decker,
Present.
Chair Elliott.
I'm here. So, good morning again, everyone. Thank you for being here. I would like to announce that the committee rules have not been sent out, but we do have those. They should be sent out later today, and we'll be operating under the same rules as we have since I've been chairman. I do want to take a moment of personal privilege to introduce my district judge, the Honorable Patrick Brasati, who is district judge in Boyle and Mercer counties. Thank you for being here today, Judge Barsati, and if everyone would make him feel welcome, I appreciate that. And I also see members of the Boyle County Fiscal Court here. I see Judge Trilly Bottom, and I see Magistrate Jamie Gay, and I see Magistrate Tom Ellis, and I see Magistrate Steve Sleeper, and I see Magistrate Paula Bodner. Thank you so much for being here, and if everyone would make them feel welcome, I think. And I also want to recognize the new members of the committee. We have Representative Jared Baumann, Representative T.J. Roberts, Representative Wade Williams, and Representative Mitch Whitaker. And so welcome to the committee, and we look forward to your work, and we know you're going to enjoy your time here. So thank you for being on the committee. We have two bills for consideration today, and the first one that we will take up is House Bill 38. Representative Tipton is the sponsor, and if he would make his way to the table and introduce himself and any guests that he has, and then we will proceed. There is a substitute as well. Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am James Tipton, House District 53, and I have a constituent with me today, Ms. Mary Ann Pratt. You ready to proceed,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, you can proceed, please. Is your microphone on?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
I'll get it here a little bit closer. I have the same issue sometimes with members at the table, but Mary Ann contacted me back in June for the first time, and we've talked several times over the course of the last few months, and she shared an experience with me that she was going through that no one should have to experience. And no one should have to be worried about being constantly harassed. No one should have to live in fear of being physically harmed or possibly killed. And I haven't experienced that. But we started to work on House Bill 38. And Mr. Chair, as you mentioned, there is a committee sub on the bill.
There's a motion. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the committee sub is adopted and before the committee.
And with the committee sub before us, the bill essentially, here's what it does. Currently, if there is a violation of an order of protection, it is a Class A misdemeanor. What this legislation does, on the third violation of an order of protection, as it's written on the same order, the same individual, that would move up to a Class D felony. I've talked to my county attorneys who are supportive of this. I've talked to my Commonwealth attorney, and I asked my Commonwealth attorney this question: do you have any other suggestions besides this to try to deal with this situation? He said, I really can't think of anyone. Now, none of us wants to increase our prison population. We understand the cost of jails and prisons, but there comes a point when we have to pass legislation that is here to protect the public. And I'll be happy to entertain any questions, but this time Mary Ann has some comments that she's prepared that she'd like to share with you about her experience.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mary Ann Pratt, and I am a survivor of domestic violence. For a long time, I have lived in fear, feeling isolated and powerless. But today I'm here not as a victim, but as someone who has reclaimed my strength and my voice. Sharing my story is not easy, as you can tell, sorry. But I do so with the hope of bringing awareness, offering support to others in similar situations, and proving that healing and freedom are possible. No one deserves to live in fear, and no one is alone. On the morning of December the 18th of 2022, I was awakened by my now ex-husband beating me. He was falling down on me, taking his elbow to my abdomen, to my chest, to everything. I pushed him off. I tried to get up. He took his right hand with his cell phone in it, swung around, and knocked me in the head, knocking me to the ground and almost knocking me out. I sat there dazed for a minute. He then laid his hand on the back of my head and told me if I tried to move or if I tried to say anything, he would kill me. So I sat there and I thought, I don't want to die. What am I going to do? After a little bit, I asked him if I could get up and sit beside him on the bed. He sat there motionless. He told me I could. I sat beside him, and then I realized there was a loaded gun beside him, and he sat motionless. He had no emotion. I slipped my feet into my flip-flops that were underneath the bed. I found my phone that was under my phone and slipped it into my pocket. And I thought, I have to leave. I have to run. I have to go. I started up. He tried to grab for me. I pushed him off and I ran. I ran for the back door. Unfortunately, he caught me. He threw me up against the door frame, continued to hit me, tried to put his hands around my throat and choke me. I stuck my hands up and I scratched him. I got out the door and I ran. I ran down the road. I hid behind a truck and I called 911. The police got there. They were able to finally get in the house and they arrested him. He was taken to jail where I was given an emergency protective order until we could get to court on January the 10th. During that time, he was released from jail. He was placed on an ankle monitor, not supposed to be around me. We went for our DVO case. I was issued my domestic violence order for 3 years. Starting the next day, he began to break the DVO. Within 5 days, he had already called or texted me 23 plus times. And on Tuesday, the 17th, he showed up at my house at 2 a.m. in the morning, trying to get in every one of my doors, only for me to find out that he had sat outside of my house for over 2 hours with his ankle monitor on, watching for me to come outside. The cops showed up and they arrested him. He went to jail. He was found guilty of a probation violation, and he was found guilty of the assault on me and the domestic violence order violations. Unfortunately, those violations were all lumped into one. And all that can do is carry 12 months. When he was found guilty, he was issued 90 days for the assault on me, and then 90 days of home incarceration when he would be released. On August the 18th was when his probation violation was up, and he was to start serving the 90 days for the assault. The Shelby County Jail decided he was a good inmate. He served 3 days of the 90 days he was given for me, and he was released home on home incarceration. Within 6 days, he had started breaking the emergency protective order by making false accounts and fake profiles and following me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I found them. I contacted the Lawrenceburg Police Department, They issued a warrant. He was rearrested. That was on the 21st of August of 2023. He was found guilty of his probation violation again. He was found guilty of 2 contempt of court charges. All of that time was to take him to March the 29th of this year. During that time, he sent me a 3-page letter from jail because they let him. He tried to call me from the jail, and my number had to be blocked. And on December the 30th, the Franklin County Jail decided he was a good inmate, and he was released. Within 2 weeks, he's broke the DVO again. He created a fake account under his mother's name, has reached out, liked different posts. We are now have 2 court cases coming up, one in family court and one in criminal court, because he decided to take to Facebook, tag me on videos, and at the same time make a statement. And I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you what the statement said, and excuse my language, that he would kill me to the point that if I was reincarnated, I would come back as a fucking abortion. He was given bond. He's out on bond for $5,000. He's on home incarceration. But when does it stop? When do I get to actually sleep? And when will my voice and everyone else's voice be heard? So that's why I've reached out to Representative Tipton. That's why I came today. I want to just show that I'm a person, and no one should live in fear every day. I have locks on my doors. I have alarms on my windows. I have multiple cameras up. And I know there's a lot of people here today for gun safety. I carry a gun. Never thought I would be that person. But it's the only way I can see to save myself if I have to. So I'm just asking that, this bill gets approved and you understand where I'm coming from and where other victims have to go through.
There's a motion and a second. There is some discussion. Representative Decker, and then I'll recognize Representative Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bill's sponsor, and especially thank you. I operate a homeless shelter for women and children, most of whom are abused. Your story is not uncommon. In fact, it's common. Mm-hmm. And by you coming forward, you are speaking for so many women who don't have the courage, or they're afraid. They think that puts shame upon them. It actually is shame upon your ex-husband. And I support this bill thoroughly, and I thank you for being willing to come and talk about it so openly, because you give a face and a voice to so many women. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Stevenson.
Thank you, Chairman. A comment and then a question?
Yes, I should say Leader Stevenson.
My comment is, first, thank you for being so brave. And I want to welcome Moms Demand Action and the students that are in Mom Demand Action, because they actually believe the same things that you believe. Not that we should get rid of guns, but that the right people should have them. My question is, because I believe in this, I have a private practice that helps people. Does this include the social media post and things that he, not just the physical contact, but any contact whatsoever with you, to include social media?
Thank you for that question, Representative Stevens. I believe if you look on page 1 of the committee sub, down under 4B, and then there's sections A, B, and B, it would be a Class D felony if it involves the attempted use of physical force or the threat of physical harm. That was some language that we had some constituent groups that reached out. And the reason I wanted to clarify this is sometimes the perpetrator, will have a protective order put out against the victim in reverse. And they were concerned that the actual victims might inadvertently get caught up in that situation. So that was the reason this was requested to be added into the proposed bill draft.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Tipton, for bringing this bill. And thank you for coming to put a face to what is, as Representative Decker said, an all too common issue here in the Commonwealth. I want to say I'm fully supportive of this bill. My only question relates to the change in the House substitute relating to the fact that the victim has to be the same. I want to elucidate a little bit. I practice in the area of domestic violence. I represent a lot of survivors, and I see the same perpetrators come back to court with different petitioners, we'll call them. Typically, it's different women who have landed in a relationship with the same abuser, not knowing his history. And so my worry is with this change, it creates a potential for one man to victimize multiple partners and to harass and abuse them twice a piece before he ever finally gets the adequate punishment he needs to realize how serious this conduct is. Can you explain to me why this needs to be included in order for us to move forward?
Thank you for addressing that issue, Representative Burke. Of course, you know the original bill did not include this specific issue. It would include any order of protection. I can't make a committee sub because I'm not a member of this committee. But and Chair Elliott may want to comment on this. I think there were some concerns issued about that maybe it needs to be that way. I will tell you that since Monday, I have been reached out. The Attorney General's office has reached out to me. They share the same concern that you have. Chair Elliott had this conversation in the Senate. This may not be the final version of the bill. The Senate may have an idea to change that, and it's my intent to have that conversation once we get it out of the House and get it over in the Senate.
Thank you for that answer, and I would be very eager to see that change be made so that we don't set up a situation where someone can continue to perpetrate against other members of the community.
Is Scott West here? He had signed up to speak on House Bill 38. You want to come forward, Scott? And if you would introduce yourself, you may proceed.
My name is Scott West. I'm formerly with the Department of Public Advocacy, but today I'm here on behalf of the Kentucky Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. And I'll tell you, I have not seen a committee sub. But from what I've heard of it, it addresses a couple of my concerns, going from a second offense to a third offense, and it involving some accusation or allegation of violence. There does remain an issue that I am concerned about, and that is how you get to the third offense. The way the statute is written currently, it is a violation of a protective order that can be contempt, or it can be a criminal action. It just cannot be both. But it is possible to get a contempt finding or two contempt finding in family court. And then when the first violent thing happens, and when I say violent, fourth degree assault, I don't call those minor assaults. It may be minor as far as the actual physical damage, but the indignity that's suffered, nobody would say that is a minor assault. But what it would mean is that you could have two technical violations of an order. Perhaps you are beyond the 500-foot limit from someone. Perhaps you are contacting someone in a non-threatening way, but you have an order that says no contact, and you were just calling to, you're trying to get back together or what have you. I have had clients in the past who have had protective orders, and then there's what some people call the honeymoon phase, where they get back together, and they say, well, but she doesn't care anymore. I don't care. You have a protective order against you that she can't lift. Only a court can lift it. And you get technical violations where there's no harm. And now those two can be the two predicate contempts. And those occur in family court. And let me tell you something. Those of you who practice in family court, if I had a hat, I'd take it off to you. I've had one divorce in my life, and that was because the prosecutor said, I will drop the bigamy charge if you get your client divorced from one of her husbands. And I thought, how hard could it be? And that was my last divorce, almost 20 years ago. And so, but criminal defense is a specialty defense too. And while there's a lot of attorneys who do both, there's a lot of attorneys that will do one or the other, but not both. And you are talking about two possible contempt where there's not a criminal defense attorney, not a prosecutor. The other person on the other side represents a client. They're not the minister of justice that prosecutors are required to be. They don't have to do things that justice requires in the name of equity. They represent a flesh and blood person. So that's my concern, is that you can have two minor ones. As far as the testimony that we heard today that was very compelling, let me tell you that the issue there is a charging decision. The testimony that I heard, that's stalking, and it's felony stalking. 25 texts, showing up and watching the street, that's stalking behavior. And stalking behavior, when there is a protective order, is a Class D felony on the first offense. So I understand that there was probably a different charging decision than maybe I would have made if I were a prosecutor. But the problem is not that we don't have laws on the books that felonize the behavior when it needs to be felonized. You know, the problem is perhaps not using all the arrows that are already in the quiver. And lastly, if I could address the issue of the third offense,